I'm coming for you. Because today, a new age of superheroes begins.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and these are all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the Season 4 finale of The Boys. And oh boy, this one did not disappoint, and it perfectly sets things up for the final season and the big showdown between Butcher and Homelander. It has been such a pleasure to cover this season for you guys, and thank all of you for supporting us and for shopping our new Laser Baby parody shirts at our merch store. It's a parody of that scene with the baby from Nirvana, along with Butcher as Punisher from Amazing Spider-Man 129 and Hitler being called a disappointment by Soldier Boy.
Disappointment.
Which is a parody of Captain America issue 1. When you shop our merch store, you not only support our channel, but you also support the consumerism that drives the American dream. Be an American, buy our merch. So this episode opens with the news that the Training A Train movie has been canned by Vought.
We just realized we'd make more from the write-off.
Now this is in reference to the cancellation of DC's Batgirl movie, where Warner Brothers canned the completed film and took the tax write-off instead of releasing it to the public. Now we, of course, know that the real reason Vought has canned the A Train movie is because A Train has officially betrayed Homelander and Vought, and then he sided with the boys. A Train has, for the first time in his life, become an actual superhero. Here we can see a Vought Studios water tower, and while the logo itself is a parody of the Marvel Studios logo, this water tower is actually in reference to the Warner Brothers Studio lot water tower. Now guys, I just want to make a note here. This show is obviously super political, and we want to break down all of these political references that the creators of the show are making, as well as the messages that they are conveying. We understand that talking politics can be uncomfortable for some people, but there's just no way to avoid it when it comes to this show. The Boys is a social commentary piece on our modern politics and the extreme divides in our country. And speaking of those divides, I want to reiterate that political violence is not tolerated in America. The Boys shows us a dark parody of a world where political violence is becoming the norm. And I think all of us can agree that violence against our political leaders is not acceptable at any point, at any time, by any party. All that being said, let's break down this episode. Then we get a parody of the I Take Responsibility campaign. Now back in 2020, celebrities released a black and white video of them saying how they take responsibility for ignoring racial discrimination. Now while the video was well intended, it came off very out of touch with these huge wealthy celebrities giving their dramatic deliveries. They even had the Deep do the same gesture as Aaron Paul. I love when we see this show take shots at these limousine liberals on the left. But Vought, of course, is not supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, they're supporting the All Lives Matter movement.
Well, wait, what's the difference?
Well, again, not to get too bogged down into politics, but I'll explain the difference of why Vaught's support of all lives matter isn't actually a good thing. It's yet another ignorant and racist trope. So the entire point behind the Black Lives Matter movement is that all lives matter, and black lives should be treated like they matter too. Many extremists on the right promoted the idea that the Black Lives Matter movement is somehow implying that black lives matter more, but that's not the point of the movement at all. The point of the movement is that we live in a society where black lives appear to be held at a lower level of importance when it comes to our justice system and police brutality. So the point of the movement is to say that black lives matter too.
Hey, person, you been working out, buddy?
Oh my God, Doug, yes, I actually have. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah, well, I mean, you never work out. I mean, not more than like once a season.
I know, I could never get a workout habit that I actually liked, but now I have finally found a workout program that is perfect for me. So if you guys have a minute, I would love to tell you about TrainWell. They're the sponsor of this video. First, I should tell you that I have tried lots of workout programs before. YouTube videos, different app workouts, diet apps, and I was never able to stick with anything. But with TrainWell, I get to work with an actual physical trainer, my boy AJ. AJ crafts the workouts just for me and guides me through the workouts, goals, schedules, and potential injuries.
But you never, ever leave the store. When are you working out?
Doug, that is the beauty of it. I can do these workouts at work or home or at the gym. So there's really two things I love most about TrainWell. One is the expertise. Anytime I've tried to craft a program for myself, it never ever sticks because I have no idea what I'm doing. So I need an expert to create a workout program for me. And this expert can then help me modify the workout if I feel like I'm hurting myself or if it's too easy or too difficult. But most importantly, TrainWell gives me accountability. I cannot tell you guys how many times I have started a workout program and I've told myself, I'm really gonna do it this time. But then it just falls apart because I get too busy, I go on vacation, or I get sick. Like literally, I got sick in late May. You remember we weren't posting a lot of videos because I was really sick. So then when I got better, TrainWell got me back on track and helped me to continue my workout program. AJ created a system for me that is also flexible, so we can shuffle around the workout dates, or I can choose a modified, shorter version of the workouts to make sure that I don't skip any days, in case the day happens to be really busy. In fact, when I use my Apple Watch, my workout is monitored so I get real-time feedback on my technique so I can make any adjustments to get the most out of my workouts. Like one workout I would have never planned for myself is the burpee. When I started, these were really hard to do, and now I like doing them because it's one of the many total fitness sets that are in my workout plan. Train Well has made me so much more confident. I'm gaining muscle, losing belly fat. I wish I knew about this app a long time ago. I'm actually going to keep subscribing because I finally found a workout program that is right for me, and I hope it's right for you guys too. It is hard to start working out, guys, but Train Well makes fitness easy. So if you want to give Train Well a try, click my link in the description to get 14 days free with your own expert personal trainer. Now back to what I was saying. Next, we learned that it is January 6th and the certification of electoral votes for the presidential election will be certified by Congress. The anchor mentions how this is usually just a formality, which is true. The certification of electoral votes is usually a symbolic procedural type thing. But like on the day of our real world, January 6th, many Republicans and Trump supporters attempted to halt the certification of Joe Biden's win. We hear the Speaker of the House say,
"We will count the certificates in an orderly fashion with no debate. Is that understood?"
And when he says, "Is that understood?" you see him point to his fellow Republican side of the aisle, letting them know that he won't tolerate any objections in decorum to this certification. And that is, of course, because he now has no objection to the certification of Singer and Newman's win because of this scene in episode 6.
Bottom line, you support me, and that is what you'll f***ing get.
Now typically at these type of certifications you will see the Vice President and the Speaker of the House, but here we only see the Speaker. But in episode 6 we did hear Newman make a remark that was in reference to the Vice President Mike Pence.
"I just had abortion mansplained to me by a guy who refuses to be alone with any woman who isn't his wife."
Huey says,
"Is now really the time with the whole country barreling towards 1984?
A reference to the George Orwell novel 1984, a story that imagines a dystopian hellscape where totalitarianism has replaced liberal democracy. And then we get the shapeshifter proposing to Huey as Starlight, and this scene had me wondering, what is her angle here? And I think she intended two things to happen with her proposal to Huey. One, just like the wild sex they had, this is meant to put Huey in a state of euphoria so that he'll be easier to manipulate and less aware of the dangers around him and less likely to realize that this is not Annie. And two, I think she genuinely gets a kick out of tormenting her victims.
Don't you just love proposals? I mean, the joy on the other person's face when they finally get their happily ever after. You're a psychopath. Sociopath.
So in this whole situation where they're adapting and parodying the real world events of January 6th, the boys also put their own spin on it, making it to where it's hard to guess what exactly is going to happen. In the real world, a Democrat won the election and far-right Republicans thought they were cheated and wanted the certification halted. But in the boys, we're seeing a Democrat elected, but the home teamers, who represent the political right, aren't trying to stop the certification because they have made a backdoor deal with Newman. And the boys, or Starlighters, who in this show represent the political left, they're actually the ones who are hoping the certification is halted or that Newman is defeated beforehand, so that Singer can become president and not be killed before taking office. We hear the Speaker say,
"Certificate from Kansas that parliamentarians advised me is the only certificate of vote from the state."
A reference to how in 2020 Trump orchestrated a slate of alternate electors or fake electors who were prepared to give electoral votes to Trump that Biden had won. When Kessler says,
"You know, if you need any help, I'm the one that gave you the juice that you needed."
This is reminding us that Butcher has Comp V inside of him, but that it's being hoarded by the now sentient tumor. And the tumor, or Kessler, is essentially saying that if Butcher gives him control, he can make Butcher not be sick anymore. Here we see that Homelander's collection of gray pubes has grown, and we get another glimpse of him talking to himself in the mirror, once again showing us the parallel between Homelander and Butcher and how they are both having identity crises and fighting with their own inner selves. Butcher is fighting between his good side and his bad side, while Homelander is fighting between two bad sides, one being a more calculated villain who takes the advice of others and is competent in his evil plans, while the other part of himself is a temper tantrum throwing lunatic. And when Homelander sees this picture of Butcher in Ryan's bag, the lunatic comes out, calling back to this scene from earlier in the season.
If you Starlighters hate you, Ryan spent some time with Butcher, and boo-hoo, you're a mess. You have to be stronger, John.
Behind Ryan, we can see a portrait of Teddy Roosevelt. And man, I get Homelander having a picture of Andrew Jackson, but seeing the bull moose himself hanging in his apartment is just out of place. After Homelander's little temper tantrum, we can see his laser eyes having burned this American flag, foreshadowing how Homelander will move to burn down the very fabric of American democracy come the end of this episode. Homelander says,
Come here. That's an order.
Reminding us that he doesn't really see Ryan as a son, but as a soldier. Just another pawn in Homelander's quest for power and lust for admiration. And as we mentioned last week, this show's gruesome take on shapeshifting is also super cool. And we also love how they take their mimicking a step further and clone their victims' minds.
And I could see every memory she'd ever had.
And I really loved how not only has this shapeshifter forgotten what her true self looks like, but her mind is so clogged with memories that aren't her own that even she doesn't know her true inner self. Once again, echoing this season's theme of characters not recognizing themselves in the mirror and having internal struggles of who they want to be. We have seen Homelander, Butcher, Huey, A-Train, Starlight, MM, Frenchie, Kimiko, Ryan. Pretty much every single main character is struggling with this same issue. Next came Newman being outed as a soup on live TV. This echoed how Homelander outed Maeve as gay in season 2.
Maeve here is a strong, proud lesbian with a beautiful girlfriend.
Newman says,
I'll be impeached.
And Homelander's response of, why would we care, is once again echoing Donald Trump. Trump was impeached twice, but it really didn't change anything because while impeachment requires a simple majority in the House of Representatives, actual conviction and removal from office only requires a 2/3 majority, which is essentially impossible to achieve, even if you incited a violent mob to ransack the Capitol to keep yourself in office. Newman points out that she also would want to be re-elected in 4 years.
Because I have to get re-elected in 4 years.
Homelander's disregard for the Constitution is foreshadowing his plans for a complete takeover of the U.S. and the abolishment of all norms. He is seeking to upend democracy. This also echoes real-world fears that if and when Donald Trump retakes power, he may never let it go. Grace asks Ryan,
what are they feeding you? Tell me there's vegetables involved somewhere.
There's lettuce on the burgers.
A reference to this scene from season 3.
Get a kid a burger now and then, would you?
Butcher says,
We, need to have a bit of a serious chinwag.
A callback to this interaction with Firecracker earlier in the season.
We just want a little chinwag's all.
Talk American?
And I loved how they used such a simple expression to draw a line between those who have fallen in line with Homelander, like Firecracker, and those who have not, like Ryan. Kessler says that Butcher needs to stab Ryan with the virus, which I still don't understand how they plan to stab people like Newman or Ryan with a needle when they have indestructible skin.
That's gonna be a big problem.
Butcher says,
when your mum died, which weren't your fault.
A reference back to season 2 and 3. In season 2, Ryan uses his laser eyes to save his mom from Stormfront, but Becca was caught in the crossfire.
Hold on.
And then in season 3, Butcher says this to Ryan.
Well, maybe I don't want to look at you. After what you've done to my Becca, did you ever think about that?
Now we see Butcher and Ryan sit down for a game of Connect 4, a game we've seen them play before when Butcher would visit Ryan when he was living with Grace. And in the season 3 premiere, we actually saw Butcher buy this Connect 4 game for Ryan. Firecracker has a cough, a side effect from the meds that she is taking to make her produce breast milk.
Sakes, get a recall.
Sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. The meds.
When he makes her scoot further and further down the table, I think this is showing us how Homelander is pushing her away, both literally and figuratively. And I think next season, Firecracker is going to see the error of her ways and join the fight against Homelander. The Deep says,
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
A reference not only to Dead Poet Society, but to episode 6, when Tech Knight said the same thing to Homelander.
Oh, Captain. My Captain.
Firecracker says,
We will put out the call to every Vought hero to surround the Capitol, the White House, and the Pentagon.
Just like we saw here in the comics. And then Ashley injects herself with Compound V so she can protect herself from the Seven.
Does anybody know Ashley's last name?
Her wig falls off, reminding us that she's been pulling her hair out for most of the series from the sheer stress and constant fear of her job. And we see the top of her head begin to move, sort of like we saw here in The Incredible Hulk with the Leader, or in Green Lantern with Hector Hammond, perhaps suggesting that Ashley's power is going to be some type of super intelligence. I think that would be really fitting because Ashley was always treated like she's stupid this season, and she was replaced by the smartest person on the planet, Sage. So it would make sense for Ashley's power to be the acquisition of a brain even more super than Sage's. President-elect Singer is being held in this underground bunker, but the shapeshifter is in there with him.
We traced the call. It's coming from inside the house.
This reminded me of how in X-Men Days of Future Past, they took President Nixon into an underground bunker to protect him, but the shapeshifter Mystique was in there as well.
One of them is in here.
And back with Starlight, if you look closely, you can see that she has been put in a Firecracker t-shirt. And after this awesome fight between Kimiko and the shapeshifter, we see the real Starlight arrive and go toe-to-toe with herself. And oh my god, you guys, this was just perfect. This entire season has been about self-reflection and discovering which version of yourself you're supposed to be. We've seen Butcher fight himself when he argues with Kessler, as well as our other leads who have inner conflicts, and even Homelander, is arguing with himself in the mirror. But now we're getting to see a physical representation of Starlight fighting fighting with herself and killing the side that she doesn't want to be. Also, she can become the self that she has been looking for.
I don't know who the I am, but I do know that I'm the beating your ass.
So we've been saying all season long that Newman was going to flip, and it was at this moment right here that pushed her over the line.
And Victoria, if you stray even an inch off that path, I will make sure Zoe knows nothing but pain for the rest of her life.
Homelander messed up big time when he threatened her daughter, and as usual, Homelander's temper contributed to his own eventual defeat. Okay, so now let's talk about Starlight being mad at Huey. Colton, you had some thoughts on this?
Look, I get it. If I were in Starlight's position, I would be frustrated too, but Huey is just as much a victim here as Starlight, if not more. He was duped by a shapeshifter that not only mimicked Starlight's physical appearance, but her mind as well. And he was essentially raped by this shapeshifter, so I don't really think Starlight has any business being angry at Huey. And look, I'm not trying to bash Starlight or invalidate her feelings. She's been through a lot as well, but Huey was just sexually assaulted in episode 6 as well, and now again. And she saw how traumatized he was from it. So again, I don't know where Starlight is getting off by saying something like this to Huey.
I thought it was you.
Yeah, and as long as you were getting laid, you didn't look too close.
I also thought it was poor writing that we didn't see Huey process the fact that he was just sexually assaulted again. They really made the whole thing a bit of a joke, and I thought it rang hollow after they gave us this scene following the sex dungeon stuff in episode 6.
That's some great points, TV Man.
TV Man?
The Deep says,
"You're a writer, you don't get paid."
A reference to the recent WGA strike where the truth came out about how poorly writers for TV shows and movies are compensated. MM says,
And Huey, if Newman even blinks funny.
A reference to how when Newman uses her powers, her eyes flicker. And then we finally get Frenchie-Ko. After the opening of this season, Kimiko said that her and Frenchie were never going to happen, and we saw Frenchie get into a relationship with Colin. So any hopes that Frenchie-Ko would become a reality seem squashed, but my friends, dreams do come true. And with this finale being such a dark and somber episode, it was nice to get this glimmer of hope. Back with Ryan, we see him learn the truth about his dad.
Your father isn't who you think he is, and he wasn't having an affair with your mom.
Grace!
He raped her!
And I really liked how they showed us that Butcher has been protecting Ryan from the truth regarding what Homelander did to Becca. I'd often wondered what Ryan thought happened to result in Homelander being his father if he knew that Butcher and Becca were together. Apparently, he thought it was an affair. He didn't know that Homelander assaulted his mom. Ryan says,
So this is why you want me to go with you? So you can teach me how to kill my dad?
This shows us that Ryan feels like a weapon on both sides. Homelander wants to use him as a toy to boost his own ego, while the boys hope that Ryan can be trained to kill his own father. Ryan feels trapped and once again overuses his powers, accidentally killing Grace.
I'm sorry.
All season, we've been seeing Butcher struggling to not let this dark side parasite take over, and his love for Ryan has symbolized his ties to Becca and has kept Butcher from falling victim to the parasite's control. But when Ryan kills Grace, that tie is cut. Any hope that Butcher held for the future and his connection to Becca and Ryan is severed, and the Beast is now allowed to take over. And then, boom, we see the tentacles burst from his chest, giving us serious Venom vibes. Not only have we had the parasite's voice in Butcher's head, like with Eddie Brock and Venom, but now we have tendrils wreaking havoc. This chest burst of tentacles is what killed Ezekiel earlier this season. And of course, we saw tentacles burst out of this test rabbit. And we saw tentacles in the animated series then covered in blood when his husband gave his cancer-ridden wife Compound V to try to save her life. So the second Newman becomes a good guy, Butcher steps in with his original plan to kill her. And guys, this death was shocking, sad, and brutal. But it also tells us something about Butcher's chances against Homelander. It was well established this season that Newman is indestructible. She takes a bullet to the head and a laser blast from Homelander and she's fine. So the fact that Butcher was able to rip into her shows us just how strong he is, foreshadowing that these tentacles are going to be able to give Homelander a run for his money. Huey is once again covered in blood, something that happened to him many times throughout the season and something that has changed him each time. He became covered in blood when A-Train ran through Robin, and that inspired Huey to join the Void boys in the fight against Vought. He was then covered in blood when he blew up Translucent, an event that pushed Huey over to the edge and turned him brutal like Butcher. In season 3, when Raynor's head popped, Huey was also covered in blood. And by the end of that season, he was inspired to join Newman to bring Vought down through the system instead of with constant bloodshed. And then again, in this season, he was covered in blood once again in his fight with the Shining Light Liberation terrorists, a scene that reiterated the fact that this war cannot be won through diplomacy and that there will be blood. And then again, just moments before Newman's death, Huey appears to have another turn in hopes of a diplomatic and bloodless solution, and he says this to the group.
I used to freak out whenever I saw blood. Now I barely blink at it.
And now, here he is, once again covered in blood. So, President-elect Singer is arrested for his orders to have Newman killed. So, with the President-elect dead, as well as the Vice President-elect, the far-right Homelander bootlicker Speaker of the House, Calhoun, is sworn in as the new president. Calhoun is probably named after John Calhoun, James Buchanan's vice president, who was a racist, slave-owning piece of shit. By the way, all of this is what Sage planned all along.
Just like I promised. We had a deal.
And I loved how Sage, the smartest person alive, was smart enough to know that she had to keep Homelander completely in the dark. Because if she didn't, then he would get in his own way.
Just had to keep a few bits to myself. You know, the bits you fuck up by, being you.
Martial law is declared. Now, martial law essentially gives the military and their commander, the President of the United States, full control over the country and its citizens, ushering in a dictatorship. Newman's daughter is taken to live at the same Red River orphanage where her mother lived as a child. This is also the same orphanage from Gen V. A boat is dropped in the middle of the road and Huey and Starlight drive straight into it, mirroring the scene from season 2 when they drive a boat straight into this whale. And then we get the return of Kate and Sam from Gen V, who we also saw earlier this season. And we see Kate use her touch manipulation powers to turn Frenchie to their side. Before Frenchie and Kimiko are captured, we see this ship that says Octorlotl. Now this is in reference to Huey's comic origins. In the comics, Huey is actually from Octorlotl, Scotland. We see MM taken down by Love Sausage, the same guy with the super penis that MM had a run with back in season 2 at the Vought testing facility. It was also in that episode where we met Cindy.
Hey, Cindy, let's be cool.
Cindy has returned as well and is working with Homelander to bring in the boys, and we can assume that she's going to be a major player in season 5. And in these final moments where the boys are being taken as essentially political prisoners, it's a really sad scene, but there's hope. Kimiko speaks. This tells us that Kimiko is finally able to break through the mental block that has kept her from speaking, signifying that now she can move on from her past. And then we see Starlight fly away in epic fashion, echoing that of Homelander's many takeoffs throughout the series, perhaps foreshadowing that she has finally mastered her powers to a point that she can take on Homelander. This ability to fly also shows us her identity crisis has ended. Earlier this season, we saw her struggle to even use her powers, but now she has regained her confidence, her powers, and she's mastered flying. And the series ends on a very dark note.
We will make America strong again. We will make America super again.
This, of course, being in reference to Donald Trump's Make America Great Again. Like we've said before, this series is very political and it's not shy about showing which side of the aisle it resides on. This series has paralleled our own real-world political discourse, and the show's creators have expressed its criticisms and fears of Donald Trump and the far right. And then we got a post-credit scene featuring the return of Soldier Boy, Homelander's father.
You. I know. You're a disappointment.
He's in a cryogenic chamber similar to the Winter Soldier from the MCU. It was revealed in season 2 that Soldier Boy was strong enough to kill Homelander, but I have a feeling he's going to be recruited by the boys once again, but this time to help stop Butcher. Remember, in season 2, it was Butcher who wanted to bring in Soldier Boy. I'm also anxious to see if we'll get to see MM have some closure with Soldier Boy next season. And guys, that's our final breakdown for this season of The Boys. We also have an ending explained for this finale up on the channel right now. We want you to be sure to check that out. Big shout out to the writer of this video, Colton Ogburn, and our entire team for doing a great job editing this entire season. I love these videos. We loved having you guys watch. Let us know what you thought of the episode down in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. And just a reminder, everybody, to give Train Well a try, click my link in the description to get 14 days free of your own expert personal trainer.